Well, it's the podcast. Welcome back. Dreams were your ticket out. Welcome back to that same podcast that you laughed about. Tell me you don't love the dulcet tones of my voice when I'm serenading you. Should probably ignore all of the podcast puns, though. You can't really ignore them, though, because they're coming at you every single time. I can guarantee it, because I'm just like that. Well, hello again, everybody. If you haven't already figured this out, it's me, Mr. NSFW, coming back to you again with another episode of Muta Scale Radio. Don't bother gigging, because we cut deep. And let me tell you, I got some cutting to do this week. Raw was 50% decent, and 50% I would like to take a hammer to my eyeballs. SmackDown was 50% boring, 50% it'll do. And NXT was as always. And because of which, I'm going to start with NXT. But before I start, how about that bacon, guys? Seriously, probably the most fun. I can't even say probably. I know it was the most fun I've had with a podcast since I started. Mind you, that was the fourth, and I've only done 3 otherwise. But even so, it was so much fun, and I can't wait to have him on again. And I can't wait to have more guests on, because I do all right by myself. I tend to do better when I have somebody to bounce things off of. I feed better off of something like that. So look forward to more guests and more top fives and probably more songs and more awful impressions of people in the wrestling industry. But until then, let's get this rolling with my review of WWE NXT live on the network. It's not actually live, it's taped, but whatever. And first and foremost, Mauro is back. Mauro Ranallo, the second greatest commentator in WWE history, is back. And I couldn't be happier to see him back, especially with all of the fallout with #FireJBL and all of that shit. He's where he needs to be, where the wrestling really matters. He could benefit 205 Live as well, but one step at a time here, folks. The night starts off with Velveteen Dream versus Ho Ho Loon. Those of you that don't know, Ho Ho Loon was in the Cruiserweight Classic. Made a name for himself with the fact that he is China's #1 star, owns his own dojo and everything like that. He's a fast little worker. He's good. He is good. He's not good here. Not that he was bad here. It's just this was an enhancement match. And for those of you that don't know, enhancement means it's a squash. The whole point is for the name to come in and get over, running roughshod over the person that's there. So, Dream goes over Ho Ho Loon. It was a relatively short match, and honestly, I figured it would have been anyways, because Ho Ho is a great worker, but he is so tiny compared to Dream. I'm just so small. Velveteen Dream he's a stud. He definitely is. He's a big boy. And I'm glad to see him starting to embrace the effeminate a little bit more, because this to me is the type of character that is a shit or get off the pot. Don't do a tiny bit of effeminate and then mix it all in with like, I'm a tough guy and all of that stuff. Don't do it. Just either cut that shit out altogether, which would make no sense with your name that way, or just embrace it and run with it. Just go crazy. And he's gotten much better with going crazy with it. And I will say, this week, that elbow drop was gold. If he could continue to land them more like this, I will start to change my tune. But until that point, I'm still going to say it's not as impressive as it could be. His height on it is fantastic, but I need more than just how high somebody can jump. I need the landing to really sell the move. Because it's not the fall, it's that sudden stop that kills you. We cut to a small little recording. I don't know why we're in Asuka's car recording her and interviewing her, but we are. And we're watching her come to the arena when all of a sudden the driver has to slam on his brakes, and there's Nikki Cross on the hood of her car, slapping it around, yelling, calling for her and everything. And this was great. Like, I enjoyed this because it just shows how unhinged Nikki Cross is. And the fact that she was willing to dive on a moving vehicle, rip the door open, and then just try to haul Asuka out of it. Like, oh, no, you're coming with me. This is happening right now. We're not waiting for the last woman standing match at the end of the night. No. We're doing this right now. Of course, we weren't doing this right now because it's a main event. You can't have the main event second spot on the card. What is wrong with you? We go to Mr. Regal's office where Authors of Pain and Heavy Machinery are talking, and Heavy Machinery has apparently earned themselves a spot. I shouldn't say a spot, a shot. Uh-oh, I said that word. Did you know that Mr. McMahon has a list of words that he doesn't want said, and title shot is one of them? He wants it to be called a championship opportunity. Really? He also just added briefcase. So this whole Money in the Bank hype that's happened since Money in the Bank was the last pay-per-view means what? Now they have to say they're carrying around a Money in the Bank contract for a title match. Not a briefcase for a title shot. The title shot thing I can kind of get over. It's obnoxious, but it's fine. There are ways around it. Not being able to say briefcase to me is asinine because they're not carrying around a fucking clipboard. They're carrying around a briefcase. I mean, maybe they can't call it, maybe don't call it a briefcase, maybe just call it the case. A case. It's fine, but no. We have to, you're not allowed to say that word. I don't understand it. Anyways, Regal books Heavy Machinery to take on Authors of Pain in 2 weeks. And it's going to be so much body in that ring. I'm interested to see what it is, though, because Authors of Pain have been far bigger than everybody else that they've taken on. This is not the case. These two guys are actually as big, if not bigger. So it could be fantastic. It could also be a complete shit show. In a bit of a rematch from a couple of weeks ago, Hideo Itami is going to be taking on Oney Lorcan. Itami comes out first. They show a video package reminding people why this match even exists, because Oney Lorcan took 3, almost 4 GTSs and everything, and the last time these two fought, and it was a barn burner, and I'm not a fan of that statement, but it totally was. These two threw down, and we were getting set to have this happen again. Though right after the bell rang, Lorcan lunged in with a running European uppercut, and they showed it a billion times, and I couldn't get a glimpse of how it happened, but somehow Hideo took a shot to the nose in this, and it busted him up to the point where he had blood running out of it. And I mean, it wasn't awful, but getting hit in the nose is no joke regardless of the scenario, especially in one where you have to be focused. So the doctors are checking on him, and they basically threw the match out because of the potential broken nose. And everybody, boo, boo, boo. And I get it. I mean, we wanted to see these two throw hands with each other again, but obviously it wasn't in the cards. Or was it? Cut to a Roddy Strong video package reminding everybody why he's here, and that he's finally got himself a dig this, Vince, a title shot against Bobby Roode. And I'm looking forward to this match because Roode is the total package and is phenomenal on the mic. He's got a great entrance. He's got a fantastic look. He's got crazy charisma, and he's extremely solid in the ring. Strong may be lacking in the size and the quote-unquote strength department, even though he is strong, minus the name. Ignoring the name rather. He's very strong. He's able to do some things to people that you wouldn't think would happen with a guy his size, and he does have the charisma of that good old everyman, and I like that. It seems a little watered down and a little too diet soda-y. So it might be hard for him to make a name for himself on the main roster just because of that. But his story is fantastic. I mean, coming from the bullshit he came from and making it in the wrestling world and making himself a name and having a wife and fiance rather, but having a family that he's now supporting and making it to NXT, and good for him. And it's that rags to riches story that everybody seems to love. So it's going to be great. Well, as soon as I said, or were we not getting that match? After the video package, cut to Hideo coming back out. He picks up a microphone. He's got 2 giant cotton swabs just jammed up his nose because he's he had his nose busted, and to make sure that he doesn't bleed all over the place, he comes out and he calls out Lorcan. English, not the greatest, but not the worst I've heard either. I mean, at least he wasn't forgiveness, please. But this match, they threw down, folks. Like, they just beat the piss out of each other. Chops, and kicks, and slaps, and European uppercuts, and elbows, and everything for days. It's always good when these guys get in there. I still say Lorcan needs more than just, I'm a tough guy who sneers and makes a really gritty face and hits really, really hard. He needs more than that. More than just he's a bruiser from Boston. Like, he does. But minus that criticism, he's fantastic and beyond stiff. At some point, a sour landing on Lorcan led to a knee injury, which led to him doing kind of the same thing that it was what happened in their previous match. It was Hideo was selling an injury in a corner, and as Lorcan's trying to come in and the ref is backing him up, Hideo boots him in the kneecap. Well, this time that actually, quote-unquote, genuinely hurt him, mixed with a landing that genuinely hurt it. And so he's kind of doing the same thing that Itami was doing, laying down and pushing the ref away, saying, no, I'm fine, seriously, I'm fine, don't stop the match, I'm good. Hideo came in and was like, here, let me give you your hand, let me give you my hand, let me help you up. What's going on? Are you okay? Are we going to do this? And Lorcan slaps his hand away, which seems like it might have been an issue, because then Itami picks him up and hits him with a GTS, and that's the end of that chapter. Then, after the GTS and the pin for the win, Itami calls out Sonny Ono to try to, I'm assuming pick a fight with him, but it might have been to apologize to him again. Well, when he's on his way out comes Sanity, or at least two members of Sanity. It was Wolf and the hairy one, the Killian Dane, that's right. It was Wolf and Dane out there. They double powerbomb Ono, and then we gave Wolf the microphone, which I was like, wow, that kind of shits all over my statement before about how he has nothing going for him. Mind you, his promo work still needs work. He is by no means the greatest of all time at that. He definitely could use some work on that. And I'm not quite sure why, but he called Eric Young the maestro, but it was the maestro. I mean, yes, he's German, so I guess that could add to the inflection being a little fucked up, but it's maestro, folks. Maestro. Well, this is going to lead to, I'm assuming, a tag team match. We also had it advertised that there's going to be an NXT title match of Bobby Roode versus Strong next week. I'm glad. I was looking forward to it anyways. I mean, I feel like at a takeover, it would probably have been bigger and better, but as is right now, probably not that bad. I mean, it's going to be a good match. And I feel like it's going to set up leading to more matches between these two. I'm hoping it doesn't end up being a one and done, because yes, Drew McIntyre is working his way up to the title picture, and he's probably going to be the next big threat for Roode's title. I think they might be rushing him in there a little too much. I don't think it's time for him to jump right in right now, especially not considering Strong just barely got this title opportunity, rather. So, as the two members of Sanity are leaving the ring and leaving Nikki Cross in there to freak out, she's saying, go get her, get her out of here, go get her, go. She's smacking him around, and she's all excited because here comes Asuka, and it's time for the last woman standing match. And, oh my God, what a good match this was. They didn't go too far into the extreme department. It was actually right about where it needed to be. There were some bumps, especially bumps that Asuka took on upper shoulder, back of the head area, that I'm like, God damn it, if she doesn't have a concussion, I'm amazed. She might actually have a concussion and just have fought through it. But it was so good. I had an unfortunate laugh at a child in the side front row area by the commentator desk, because he's got his arm outstretched, trying so hard to get Asuka to high-five him or to basically to notice him. And she's in the middle of a match. You can't really expect, one of the performers to just drop the match and be like, oh, a fan, high-five. This match ends with Nikki Cross setting up a table and putting Asuka on it, climbing up a ladder like she's going to jump onto said ladder, and then Asuka gets up, climbs the ladder, and superplexes her through the announce table. And actually, it wasn't the suplex itself, or the superplex, I guess, was actually, it was a great spot, but the landing wasn't anywhere near as hard as I think people sold it with the holy shit. Mind you, I wasn't the one going through the table, so how the hell do I know? I'm just judging it from what I saw. And from what I saw, Asuka took a lot harder bumps earlier on in the night. And man, she just wouldn't stay down. They gotta keep the belt on her. until they call her up. She actually just put out a tweet that showed that she was, on the beaches and that she will remain there and will not return to NXT until they give her a challenger that is worthy. They have to make it worth her while. So that is fantastic heel work by Asuka. Basically saying, I'm not going to wrestle until you give me somebody worth wrestling. That's awesome. That shows the power, the star power, the pull that she has as champion. It's so good. And it actually is kind of a jump out of the norm because she's fairly quiet, and to the best of my knowledge, I don't think I've ever actually seen her tweet anything. So, good for her. NXT this week, as with most weeks, just A+ material. I mean, maybe A-, but even so, it's better than most of the grades I got, let me tell you. On to the smack diggity down. Oh, that was awful, I'm sorry. I don't know what the hell I was thinking. Daniel Bryan comes out first. He's so over. He may be the most over person in the company. Like, he beats the piss out of Cena. He beats the piss out of their top heels and faces. Doesn't matter who. And he's not even technically on the active roster. He hasn't set foot in a ring to do battle in, I want to say it's been 2 years, but you would think that I would do my homework on this. But it's, are you coming to me for factual statements or are you coming to me for opinion puff pieces? I mean, you tell me, and I'll tell you what to do with it. Zing! Carmella's out to talk shit and basically explain what she explained last week and what's been crammed down our throats since Money in the Bank. There is no rule that says that somebody else can't climb the ladder and take the belt. There is no rule in this type of match because there are no rules in this type of match. And she's right. Her argument of, what about so-and-so helping out, and what about so-and-so, Sheamus and the Kane, and just stop. Your point is completely invalid when you look at the fact that neither of these two people, Kane helping Rollins, did not climb up and actually take the briefcase off and give it to Rollins. And that same thing did not happen with Sheamus. It didn't. It's not a valid argument. The no rules argument is the most valid argument. And I'm glad to see Carmella getting a little bit over. Bayley did the Steve Austin show. And after listening to that and hearing that Carmella is a huge fan of Japanese wrestling and knows Japanese wrestling stars and just is a super, like, Mark Otaku, or maybe it's Otaku Mark, whichever way you want to put it. It made me respect her a little bit more. I mean, I never really necessarily, had an issue with her. She bored me because the Staten Island Princess, to me, is not a gimmick. It's just not. I'm a less charismatic female Enzo, and that doesn't work for me. I mean, she does an alright moonwalk, I guess, but everything else is kind of meh. So, after picking a fight, Daniel Bryan was, upset by Ellsworth again, and then forcibly had him removed from the building and said he was banned. Not just banned from ringside, but banned from the building. Thank you so much. We have a non-title match with the Hype Bros versus the Usos. For some odd reason, the Hype Bros are like, we have unfinished business with the Usos, and we deserve to get our title shot, but instead of getting a title shot, we're going to just have a match where there's no, there is no title on the line. Worst part being, Hype Bros lost. On the version I watched, we went to a commercial, we come back from the commercial break, and that's it. That's it. The match is over. Hype Bros are squashed. I don't understand it. Why we do all of this building towards, we have unfinished business, we need a title match, we have unfinished business, we need a title match, etc., just to turn it into a squash match makes no sense to me. New Day interrupts, and we have a bunch of smack talk building to what is going to be a rap battle this week. I say this week because, as you have noticed, I have been slacking on this podcast. I was trying to get other people on. I was trying to get your favorite bacon back in, because who doesn't love bacon? And try to get my buddy Scott on. And I could have put out a huge bat signal call to arms, and I guarantee I could have gotten somebody. But it was just, there was a convenience of New Japan G1 Climax happening this week, or this last weekend, and a pay-per-view coming up soon, and all of that stuff. I was trying to get that prepped up. Anyways, we do a Fashion Vice featuring Breezango, which, of course, I don't know why I'd say featuring, because it's always featuring. These segments are good. They're good for a laugh, and they're building up an odd character dynamic between Breezango, though I'm just afraid it's going to end up going too comedic, and they're going to end up Jack Gallagher-ing in that, they're not going to be considered a serious anything. They're just going to be a joke. And that's no good for anybody. I mean, I guess if you're getting paid and you enjoy what you do and you're having fun being the joke, I guess that's fine. But we have a rematch from Money in the Bank with Naomi versus Lana. And again, Feel the Glow is out first. Why do we have to keep doing this? Like, does that entrance lose its impact if she has to come out after somebody else? Like, she has to come out first, or else it's not going to be the same? I don't understand it. This match was the time it took me to blink my eyes and let out a bit of a. This match is over. Naomi wins, basically squashes Lana, and thanks for coming. Come again when you can stay a while. Holy shit. So after a moderately impressive showing at the pay-per-view, we put her on TV, and she gets steamrolled. Great. Well, during the steamroll, the pinfall, there was some controversy. Lana took a picture of it that she got and said, my shoulder wasn't down, trying to plead her case for a rematch, a fair rematch, next week, aka this week when you're listening to it. More on that on another show. Aiden English is out there. He's singing, and he's got a great voice. He's got a fantastic look. Like, the dude is chiseled from stone. And I don't understand. I mean, I guess I understand why he wouldn't be getting much of a push. Number one, he was partnered with a guy who got straight thrown out for getting into fights with people and injuring people and stuff like that. But he is essentially mostly what Vince is looking for. He's super toned. He's got charisma, and he's an in-ring talent. He's willing to sell, plus he's willing to dish it out. And I mean, I guess maybe it's his gimmick of being, an operatic, Shakespeare-loving, intelligent guy, kind of like Damien Sandow, only in much better shape. That maybe they don't have anything to do with him. So he's yet another talent on SmackDown. So after he kicks English out, tries to kick him out, English is hesitant. English finally packs his shit and gets ready to leave. And he gets RKO'd for his troubles. Like, color me surprised. It came from out of nowhere, you guys. Ugh. So after he gets him out of the ring with the RKO from RKO starts talking shit, saying that he demands he gets what he wants and that he's not going to leave until he gets what he wants. He's going to continue to smash people and RKO people until he gets his rematch for the title. Randy Orton is supposed to be a face. That's not very facey. A spoiled brat, self-entitled cunt like that is not who I would call a face. Mind you, I say that, and his heel foil in Jinder Mahal is not that much better. But anyways, Orton's temper tantrums gets him what he wants. He's going to be getting a rematch for the title against Jinder Mahal at Battleground in a Punjabi prison match. Now, I've heard a lot of talk about how people can't believe this match is coming back because it was a shit show. It was a shit show because it had Great Khali in it. That man had the fecus touch, if ever I've seen it. Yes, size is one thing, but when you have zero charisma and next to zero in-ring ability, plus you reached a point where you could barely walk, let alone wrestle, there's no point. You're there for the imagery and not for the actual in-ring ability. And how are you going to have a match when you're in that bad a shape that requires you to climb over a fence? I mean, of course the matches were garbage. Mind you, I don't necessarily think this is going to go much better, but it's at least got more of a chance than the other ones did. We get backstage. There's a segment where AJ Styles is trying to ask Bryan if Kevin Owens is doing it right with the whole open challenge, but it's only an open challenge to people who are in that of that home state. Every time he calls out an open challenge, AJ answers it, and AJ doesn't get the title shot because Owens is like, no, you're not from here. And he doesn't understand, they basically make a comment about how Owens doesn't get what a open challenge means. Open challenge means you take on all comers, regardless of where they're from. And Owens is trying to say that he's already beaten AJ, so he doesn't need to beat him again. He doesn't need to. There's no point. All of these things are fair criticisms and fair comments. So this week, as in the week right now, not the week that I'm currently discussing, they bring up that this week on the 4th of July is going to be a battle royal for the number one contender for the U.S. title. And I'm excited about this. Or it was, had I not actually watched it tonight. That's a lie. Still excited. It was a good match. But I'm getting a full show ahead of myself here, folks. So, number one contender thing. And in this case, there's no way that Kevin Owens can complain. He can't. Because whoever wins gets the shot. That's all there is to it. Mike and Maria Kanellis are out, and they're about to start one of their loving spiels when Zayn's music kicks in and he slides through them. And he's like, "Oh, sorry. I mean, I didn't mean to interrupt. I gotta go. I got a match. Got a match. Good. You guys, you have fun. You go ahead. You have fun." And he goes in. And the goofy side of Zayn it's entertaining. but it's a little obnoxious. I think it would be less obnoxious if the guy got more, had better wins, had bigger wins, had, more momentum going into scenarios. Him being goofy and getting those wins makes it that much better, because then he becomes, the underdog from the underground, like we're trying to say he is, which is his current gimmick. Anyways, Sami Zayn in another rematch against Baron Corbin. He thinks he's got this because he's beaten Baron Corbin. He's got him 3 times now. We don't count the Money in the Bank because he didn't actually beat Zayn. He beat everybody, but whatever. This was a very solid match. These two have really good chemistry, and it all comes down to the fact that Zayn sells like a fucking champ. But not as over the top as Ziggler is, but just as good. And it's great to see. The only thing that bums me out is realizing that Zayn is not that old, but he's still getting older. Like, he's still in his mid-30s. The man's developing a bit of a gut, and it's disappointing because sometimes that's not that big of a deal, but sometimes that's a sign that you are physically starting to be on your way out. And I don't want to see that because I love Sami Zayn. He's awesome. We go tit for tat and trading things, and then we get an End of Days, which is a fantastic finisher. I mean, I love the Flatliner, and most Flatliner variants are okay, but I think just a straight Flatliner has enough impact for me that I don't need it to have all that much. But it's the fact that Baron Corbin is big, so this spot it's a big time move, and people tend to take it really well. There are some that are kind of heavy, and you see them kind of like hanging from him, like, oh, this could be bad. Like, I don't see him really hitting. He has hit Kevin Owens with it though, so maybe I'm wrong. The match looks good. I mean, Corbin's got a great move set. I mean, he's trying to wrestle a bit more like he did an interview with Chris Jericho on Talk is Jericho, talking about how Undertaker gave him one solid piece of advice. No matter who you're in there with, if they're going to get their spots off on you, and it's fine that they do, make them work for it. You are a big guy, so there is no reason for a Rey Mysterio to be giving you a fucking powerbomb. You need to make them earn it. They have to work for their moves. And to me, that's pretty much what Corbin does. He doesn't oversell anything, and he doesn't just take a move and fly all over the place like a Zayn or a Ziggler. He doesn't. And that can lead to kind of a boring style, but I don't think big men need to have an over-the-top, crazy, excessive style. It's actually, the less like that a big guy is, the more over big guys who do that are, plus the more special it is if they start to go that. But I don't mind seeing these guys wrestle each other every other week or every week or whatever, because they work fantastically together. And that's because Corbin, for all that it's worth, has become a fantastic hand. And Sami Zayn is always a great worker. And it's always great to watch him wrestle. Minus when he's getting steamrolled, then it's kind of depressing. Main event of the evening, we have the second ever women's Money in the Bank ladder match. Charlotte comes out first, then Natalya, then Tamina, then Becky Lynch, then Carmella. And this match was good in the way that it was not identical to the Money in the Bank pay-per-view one. The only thing that bummed me out is it lacked some of the spots that one had. I was glad to see that Carmella got in there a little bit more, but even so, she still kind of pulled the reins and wasn't really there for the whole match. And that was really, really annoying. I like to see whoever wins really work for it. For Money in the Bank on TV, it was a very good match. It's great for TV. Just, to me, not as good as the original one was. But, I mean, who knows? Maybe I have some weird sort of bias and I didn't like it for whatever reasons. Maybe I didn't like it because I'd already seen the first one and left a bad taste in my mouth because of the Ellsworth thing. Who knows? MVP of this one, I'm going to say, was Natalya. She did more, she took more, and she worked her ass off. She works her ass off anyways, but you could really see her working on this one. Tamina got to show some of her strengths, just her strength in general, and that to me was great. And it's nice to see them kind of seeing like, oh, you're a brute, so we're going to make you look more like a brute, which is good. She had the ladder on her chest, collarbone area, and she pushed it off of her with somebody on it. Just straight pushed it over, and that's a great spot. Early on, Tamina got her licks in and went for the Superfly splash, and oh, Tamina, honey, don't do that again. Pops is rolling over in his grave right now because you landed feet first and crumpled. You didn't crush him. And if you're not going to do the splash right, or at least do it justice, don't do it. Even though I get why you did it in the first place. Even though he'd been banned from ringside and from the building, Ellsworth somehow got back in, found his way out under the ring, and he's climbing the ladder, getting ready to give Carmella the I'm gonna say a dirty word, the briefcase. Ooh, so naughty. He's climbing, Carmella's waiting for it, Carmella gets thrown out of the ring, and then Becky Lynch goes into some long-winded thing of, I'm gonna push you this way, I'm gonna push you this way, oh, maybe I'm gonna, and then she makes him nut himself on the top rope and gets rid of him. The problem is he had his leg out for what felt like a day, just waiting for it. This is, like I said the last time, the spot where you throw your hands out and you slap your hands on the rope and then act like you necked like you caught your throat on it and stuff. That's annoying. This spot is just, it's too projected, and it doesn't, if you're not going to nail the landing or nail the sell of it right, don't do it. And while I'm complaining about this, my wife is next to me complaining about the overdramatic, long drawn out climbing the ladder mixed with fumbling around with the briefcase. I said it again. Messing around with it, trying to get it off of the chain. And I'm with her. It is silly to see somebody sit there and, why isn't it coming off? While simultaneously looking around and making sure that, quote unquote, nobody's coming to get her, when it's pretty obvious somebody's coming to get you. Well, after Ellsworth takes the crotch shot, Lynch gets taken out, and then Carmella climbs and gets the contract. And of course the crowd is disappointed because they wanted to see somebody else get it, thinking that maybe the whole Carmella getting it thing was just a bad joke and that they were wiping the slate clean with it. But no, they're invested in her, and they're going to give her the heel push. And that's fine. Get some new blood in there. Why not? I'm for it. Honestly, at this point, I'd like to see most of anybody else that was in that match with the belt rather than Naomi. Naomi's just got that face uber hype thing going, and it's obnoxious. She's got 3 or 4 moves. She is athletic. I'm okay with them being athletic, but athleticism does not necessarily make make every match fantastic. It makes a couple of your spots look really good, but it doesn't mean you're working for the rest of it is top of the pops. Fuck, that's an old ass reference too. Anyways, not bad. The pattern from all 3 shows this last week was women main evented all of them, and for that, WWE, bravo. I'm glad that the women are getting their due, and getting their due in a good way too, not a fucking cop-out kind of thing, like legitimate contests. Now, I would like to take a brief moment to say that I wasn't going to watch Raw. I usually listen to reviews and podcasts that discuss what happens on these events, either shortly after they've happened or before I've had a chance to see them. And that can lead to probably a bit of prejudice or bias against the show, and in turn also maybe makes it so that I don't put my all into it because I'm not as surprised when I see them. And that probably would have been the case with SmackDown's Money in the Bank in a women's match. Seeing it was good, but wasn't as exciting, I think, as it would have been had I watched it without knowing what happened first. Same thing with the Last Woman Standing match from NXT. I think that match would have been, it was already, for me, a 4-star. I probably would have been a 5-star had I not known what was coming. But I digress. I was not going to watch Raw because I'd heard about everything that had happened, and I was shown the error of my ways in that it is unjust of me to not at least have the integrity to review a show that I have seen. Which makes sense because I don't like when people review video games they've never played just based off of pictures. I don't like when people review albums, bands, movies, doesn't matter, books. I don't care what it is, TV shows. If they haven't seen it and they've only seen pictures or heard what somebody else has said happened and they try to tell me yay or nay, I go, that's not a valid opinion because you haven't seen it. And she got me. But I'm not happy about it. You see what I have to put up with? Roman Reigns comes out first. I'm starting to think, I might not even mention that from now on because it's just what happens. Gotta call out the big gig to his yard. If it's his yard, why the fuck isn't he just there? He should be out there anyways. Oh wait, I guess that's animal cruelty if we don't let the dog in every now and then, isn't it? So he's out, he's talking to the crowd. Kudos to him for saying things to the crowd like, if you listen for a minute and let me speak, you're gonna like what I have to say. And he said some stuff that the crowd did in fact like, and he's like, see? And good for him for, shitting on the crowd. Although it's still weird that he's the face, but not the face. He is as neutral gets. Like, he's not the anti-hero that Stone Cold was. Stone Cold was, I'm going to do what I want, when I want, and everybody else can go to hell. But he never fully said the audience can fuck off. Reigns has basically said, you don't like me because you're a bunch of haters. And that's a crybaby way to look at it. Not to mention the term hater. You are shitting on my face right now with calling the fans haters. Like, oh, you don't like me because you're just jealous? Really? I'm not jealous of you because I don't want your position. I don't want to be the guy that gets shit on week in and week out, even though the fucking company has tried so goddamn hard to just push me. I don't want to be that. I don't want to be that at all. So out comes a wambulance. Strowman, of course, is the one driving it. And my God, can we... I'll be glad when the ambulance match bit is over, because the shtick of the ambulance being there all the time is frustrating, to say the least. And it's a little boring, honestly. The idea of an ambulance match is not even that exciting. Like, I've seen a couple that weren't bad, but a lot of the times it's kind of boring, honestly. I should probably stop doing that. I keep pulling on that cord. I'm sorry, everybody. I'm sorry. We get a throwdown. Strowman beats the piss out of Roman, and everyone was excited about it. Beat him up, threw him in the ambulance, and sent it packing, which is great. But it also kind of paints the picture that Strowman's probably not going to win the ambulance match, especially with the fact that he keeps bringing it out, he keeps selling it, he keeps throwing Roman in and closing the door and getting it to drive away and everything. It doesn't look good. Come back. Elias, Samson, Cesaro, and Sheamus are in the ring doing a trio, getting ready to sing for everybody, and Elias points out that he's ordinarily a solo act, but for this special occasion, to give the crowd the song that they deserve, he's going to make them a trio. And I'm intrigued by this because I want to hear how tone-deaf I guarantee Sheamus is, and if Cesaro can sing accurately, or if the only thing he's halfway decent at is yodeling. And that's not meant to be like a slur at the fact that, he's Swiss. Like, legitimately, the guy can yodel. Of course he can yodel, Josh. The Swiss do nothing but yodel. Who will let Bacon back in here? Damn it. That's just straight ignorant, dog. Hardy's music comes in before the song really gets underway, which I'm appreciative of because I love Elias's heat, and I do see great things for him, but I hate his songs. Honestly, if he wants the real heat, he should fucking just play Wonderwall. Mind you, they'd probably run into problems with that, but still. He's basically doing covers at this point anyways with his own words, so... When the Hardy's music kicks in, we get this over-dramatic overselling of how upset Cesaro and Sheamus are. Like, what? Why? ¿Por qué? Why? It's enough is enough already. It's too much. Just way too much. And then the Hardys bring out Finn Balor, because we're having the Hardys and Finn Balor versus Sheamus, Cesaro, and Elias. Just because. I mean, combining two feuds because we can. Need to squish in a little bit of airspace. And the commentators introduced Josh Duhamel because he's doing a show on USA Network, so they obviously have to give props to the network because it's the network. And he's also doing a movie with Sheamus, so they have to promote that and the other show, and then promote him. And to his credit, he mentioned a couple of moves, but also was kind of like, oh, hey, oh, huh. And the commentary spent more time talking to him about the movie and the TV and kind of ignoring what was going on in the ring. My inner wrestling fan was screaming at the fact that all of this nonsense had nothing to do with what was going on in the ring, other than the fact that Sheamus was in the ring and he's in a movie with this guy. But that was really it, and it annoyed me. That's the inner wrestling nerd. The wife and I had a discussion about this because the business standpoint, it makes perfect sense. It's the parent network with USA, so they have to get promotion into it, and you have to promote the movie because the movie is a movie with Sheamus in it, and Josh is also going to be directing a movie with WWE, like WWE Studios. So it's all the business side of it. It makes perfect sense. I just would be lying if I said the wrestling fan in me didn't want to hurt people for this whole thing. Hardys and Balor go over with a coup de grace on Cesaro, which bummed me out because I really wish Cesaro wasn't the one that took the pin, especially considering Sheamus is about to leave for a few months to do a movie, so have him take the loss. But no. And just when you thought that the business taking precedent over wrestling couldn't get any worse, along comes Ms. TV featuring The Balls. Not the Flamin' Hot Balls, but the Ball family, who are popular because basketball. This was the segment that when I read about and heard many reaction to, made me say, no, I will not stick my penis into that mousetrap because I know what's going to happen. This is why I had refused and why I watched the show under protest. But again, when somebody's telling you something and using logic and reason, and their logic and reason is undeniable, you can't fight it. You just have to swallow it and deal with it and be extremely bitter about it, because this was an abortion and not a clean doctor done abortion. This was a home abortion kit that is basically a vacuum cleaner full of razor blades. I don't know. That was the most extreme thing I could think of at the top of my head. This was terrible. The balls come out, and Alonzo, the father, is just talking. I mean, he's more annoying than Titus with the and everything. Just far more annoying than that. We've got the shirts all over the place. Miz tried to work his magic to bring this back, but he just couldn't save this segment. He couldn't. Doesn't help that in the middle of trying to talk, Alonzo wouldn't shut the fuck up. He just keeps talking over him. And at some point, like, Miz decides he's going to get into his get all up into his face, and Alonzo takes his shirt off. And while he's taking his shirt off to go and pick a fight, Dean Ambrose's music plays, and Ambrose comes out, and instead of like anybody in the ring really reacting to it, Alonzo is still dancing back and forth with his shirt off, looking like a wacky waving. He actually no, I'm not even going to go to that route with it. He looked like he was on something, some type of meth. He took a pop before he fucking got out there. I don't know. He's just he won't look at Ambrose. He won't react to the fact that Ambrose came out. He won't do anything. He's just too busy staring at Miz and making monkey signals, and that's not a racist thing. Wow. He was legitimately acting like a gorilla. Will you stop? No, I sold my case on this one. That was not a racist statement. His arms are flailing all over up in the air, and if you've ever seen a primate do this, that's what he looked like. I don't care what race you are. I don't care what you are. I don't care. If you act like a monkey, I'm going to call out the fact that you're acting like a monkey. And he was. And it was awful. Not to mention, I'm not going to take a criticism in this area of something racist when the youngest member of the Ball family dropped the N-bomb on live TV twice. Like, this is what it's come down to. It's a black guy on the, again, not meant to be racist, no pun intended on that. It's a black guy on the business, and it's just, it was awful. And it turned me off to the whole program. The good news is, this was it. This was the end of all of the really terrible, terrible, terrible shit. Because after this ends, we get a Big Cass and Enzo recap video, and then Enzo comes out and basically says, Cass, come out here, we need to talk, we're brothers, we're family, I love you, you're right, I talk too much, and I only got to where I was because of you, but we need each other, and I know you're not the bad guy, I know you're not this terrible person that you seem to be acting like, I know you're not. And Cass, gets teary and gets with him, and they're all buddy hugging, high five, and they're doing the, I'm gonna spell it out for you. And it was good. The crowd was totally buying into the fact that they're all going to be celebrating and they're back to being friends and everything's great. They get up the ramp and Cass plants Enzo again. It was so good. Like, I mean, it was a fairly obvious swerve, but still a great swerve. And it was an enjoyable watch, especially from two people who their entrance chemistry is there and their in-ring chemistry is there too, but like they don't seem to have the kind of chemistry you want for like singles push. But in this, Enzo he talked and he spoke so well, and there seemed to be genuine emotion behind it. The man he's good, and it sucks to see them split because Cass is going to go on to bigger and better things because he's the bigger and quote-unquote better man, and Enzo's going to get buried in the mid-card, undercard, 205 Live just because he's not as big. He is a little too small, I will admit that, but bummer. Talented. But I absolutely love this. I also loved seeing things of the boss, Sasha Banks, being on the BET Awards. She's up for an award at the Teen Choice Awards. It's great to see her getting, promoted. The problem is this also could lead to some of her future pushing, and that she's only getting the push and stuff because she was on television, and that's a bummer, because I like to see people get over because of their actual ability, not just because they got on TV. Though I don't think she would have gotten where she was if it wasn't for her actual ability. So I'm kind of talking on my ass here, but bear with me. Almost done. Cass comes out and threatens Graves, talking about how I don't know what kind of dirt you have on Angle, but you stay the hell out of my business from now on. And he's like, Angle has already told me that I am not to lay a hand on you, which you're lucky. And I mean, the you're lucky thing is a bit hacked, but I was like, well, that's cool. I'm still intrigued. I'm intrigued to wonder what's going on with that Angle. We shall see. Can you hear me scratching my chin? That's the sound of intrigue. Seth Rollins versus Kurt Hawkins. Surprisingly, not a bad match. I mean, I shouldn't say that surprisingly, because Rollins is fucking amazing. And Kurt Hawkins is really good, too. He was always good. He's still good. His gimmick's a little weird. I don't quite get what he's supposed to be, but he's a really solid worker. But, of course, Rollins goes over because Rollins is basically number one on the Raw brand at this point, next to the obvious top four. He's the next in line under Strowman, Roman, Brock Lesnar, and Samoa Joe. The one thing that I think I do have to complain about Rollins, and I need to say, is motherfucker needs a new finisher. Doing the K trigger, that is Kenny Omega's finisher from Japan, just it's not doing it. Mind you, the knee strike is good sell, but the more knee strike type finishers we have, the less important I think the Kinshasa is going to be. And I mean, that's also me being a bit of a loser mark, talking about how don't you dare take away from how good my Shinsuke is. Motherfucker, of course I'm going to promote my spirit animal. I have to. I'm going to talk him up until he's not able to be talked up anymore. But on that day, I will fight you. So Seth goes over with the knee strike thing that he doesn't even have a name for it. I mean, honestly, he slayed the king with the pedigree. Keep the goddamn pedigree. Continue to do it. It's a thumb in the nose of the authority. That's kind of what got Stone Cold over. So why not keep going? Wyatt's up on the big screen, cutting another one of his Ooga Booga promos, and it hurts to downplay him because his goddamn promos are so good. He speaks, you're captivated. You're just sitting there listening to it like, yes, tell me more. Tell me more. And tell me how long before. I mean, it's Charles Manson in the best way possible. The thing that sucks is it's just not going to lead to anything because it never does with Wyatt. They put him up on this pedestal where he talks about how he is a god and he's the eater of worlds and he's brilliant. And then they just bury him. Just slap him all around and make him lose. And how are we going to continue? Like, the only way to bring him back now is a dynamic push where he starts going through all of the people that were in that Fatal 5-Way with him and beats them all one by one. Rollins, then I don't care. He's got to save Joe for last, obviously. So everybody else, Rollins, Reigns, Balor, got to beat them. And then Joe. Got to build his way up. It's like the only possible way for him to actually be anything, because I don't give a shit how great your promos are if you get beat all the time. Think of Paul Heyman. He's a fantastic promo guy. As a mouthpiece, you can't beat him, but he doesn't get into matches. So it's okay. Speaking of, there's a segment with Heyman calling out the Beast, talking mad smack about Joe and how he's a coward and how he tries to get cheap shots in, calls out Brock. Brock gets jumped from behind and put in the coquina clutch. And every time it looks like he's getting this close to going out, he finds a way to get Joe off of him until finally the backstage area is cleared and Joe is pulled off of him and brought to the back. And he does what he does before. I did this to you. I did this to you, Brock. I did this to you. And Brock sold it like a champ. And not for nothing, as much as I have absolutely just spit constant vitriol about Brock Lesnar as a concept, and in some cases as a person, the fact that he is working this well with Joe And the fact that I have also read rumors that Joe is going up to bat to say he wants this feud to continue. He knows it's going to be a big money thing, and it is the right thing for the company to do. That, to me, I'm going to do it again, twice in the same week. Good for him. And this was great. The only thing is it should have stopped before we got to an interview with Paul Heyman backstage, where he talked about how Joe is going to be beaten, left laid out, and how he's going to get woken up with smelling salts, and what he's going to say is, wow, is that what it's like to be beaten by the Beast? Goodness gracious, great balls of fire. Ick, Paul. Just ick. I mean, it could have been that he's intentionally being satirical about it, and openly basically just poo-pooing how horrendous this is a name for a pay-per-view. But other than that, another great segment. And speaking of great segments, we now have a women's gauntlet match to decide who is going to go to Carlos Spicy Weenie's lower nether regions. Lower nether regions as opposed to the upper nether regions? Fuck. Gauntlet match to decide who is going to take on Alexa Bliss for the title. Bayley comes out first against Nia Jax. This does not bode well for Bayley. Good starting match, though. Bayley showed some great fire and really kind of countered this whole, I'm a girl, and I love that all the little girls can look up to me. It actually started to counter this a little bit. Not counter, because it's not necessarily like that's a bad thing. I like her being a positive role model. It's just, she's so cutesy-poo that it's annoying. It does lead to, when there is maybe at some point a heel turn, that it's going to be big. But there's also a very good chance that it's going to be John Cena. No heel turn in sight. Anyways, her and Nia had a great throwdown, but just wasn't enough. Fresh Nia, able to beat her with a Samoan drop, which I'll take over her leg drop. Nia goes on to take on Mickie James. We cut to a commercial and we come back and Mickie James is getting her licks in, but ends up getting beat as well. Bummer, but, good to see Mickie James, and good to see that she didn't get completely squashed. Unlike Dana Brooke, who came out next. Dana Brooke showing she's super athletic with a bunch of cartwheels, no-handed cartwheels, mind you, something I absolutely could not do. But she's in there for all of what feels like 10 seconds before she's just steamrolled. And I don't know why I just don't know why she's there. I don't know why they called her up. She needed much more time to build. And then Emelina, or Evil Emma, comes out, and I wanted to see this one go. I wanted to see this be an extended match with some good backs and forths, but nope, just leveled her. Which I guess kind of makes sense, because Nia had a long night of wrestling. By the end, she was in there for over 30 minutes, and bravo for somebody who, in a lot of matches, was only doing squashes. So, good to see that. Out comes the boss, Sasha Banks, and as we know with the Teen's Choice Awards and the BET Awards and things like that, obviously, she's over. She's kind of a big deal. And as kind of a big deal, she's wrestling Nia, and I can't think of a female comparison to David and Goliath, but it's a female David and Goliath, is what it is. And it's Sasha using the bank statement as a way to counter how big and powerful Nia is. And she finally gets her down, gets her basically with a standing bank statement, and then down to the ground in a bank statement. And Nia gets close to what looks like passing out, but then ends up tapping out to it. Sasha Banks is going on to Polo and Fuego to take on Alexa Bliss. And I'm looking forward to this match because they make it seem like Nia is the next obvious choice for a feud with Alexa. But I hate to be a sizeist in this, but let's face it, I'm always going to be a size queen in one way or another. Nia's just too big for it to even make sense for Alexa to beat her. The only way Alexa can beat her is with backup or cheap shots / cheating. And I'm talking like full weapons from out of nowhere cheating. Or some kind of backstage incident where Nia gets like a legit injury that slows her way down and makes it so she can't do anything. But if that doesn't happen, Nia's just going to crush her. And it's going to bum me out because it's going to bum me out. Bliss is amazing. I don't know if it's going to happen though, because the back seems to be very big up on Alexa at this point, and I'm glad to hear that. So, I mean, women's main events, big time highlight. NXT highlight of the week again. Competition just hemorrhaging. SmackDown had a few good segments and a lot less bad segments than Raw did. Raw is just the ultimate roller coaster of highs and lows. Its highs are so high, but its lows are just scraping the bottom of the sewage tank. If I never see the balls on TV like that, it'll be way too soon. In honor of doing the top 5 best entrance themes with my buddy Tim, aka Bacon, last week, I'm going to hit you with the top 5 worst entrance themes for me right now. Going to start with number 5, Face Emma. The boop 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 boop. Annoying. With a capital Jesus, my ears. It's terrible. It's not even like a good kind of melody redundant. Like, it's just redundant. And her silly look at my hands sway back and forth dance. How that gimmick got over, I'll never know. Number 4, No Way Jose. For the simple fact of annoying saxophone followed by No Way Jose, No Way Jose. That's it. That's all the fucking lyrics are. And it just keeps going. The beat and, the music itself are very infectious, so that's enjoyable, but I hate it. I just absolutely hate it. And I'm going to say number 3 is the Usos when they were faces. This might be a bit of a loophole kind of thing because a lot of it had to do with the entrance itself as well as the theme, but just that tribal sound with the slapping of themselves and everything. Redundant, obnoxious, and painful to listen to. And then it went into some hip-hop thing that was really also kind of bad. Just a chore to watch. Number 2 is Bailey. I do not like this Owl City style pop bit with the There Ain't No Stopping Us Now and all of that. Again, I love Bailey. Her in-ring ability is great. I wish she'd get a fucking different move because the Bailey of Belly is garbage. And it's also a stupid name. What a stupid name. The entrance is just, the theme is obnoxious. But I mean, it is what it is. She's stuck with it for at least for now. Who knows? If they get a heel turn, maybe, it's going to have to change. There's no way they can keep it the same. And number 1, this one might be a bit unfair, but right to censor. Because it was just a siren. Just like an intruder alert siren that just kept going. It's so annoying. There's no beat, there's no rhythm, no melody, no nothing. Just kept going with this. And if these guys wanted to take their time, you had to listen to that for a long ass time. And that's just cruel and unusual punishment at that point. And I want to say that top 5 in no way shits on the people involved. Because they're all talented in one way or another, or had talents in them, or anything like that. It is literally just the way we made this song. Ugh. The plan for next episode, which probably going to be coming at you in not that long from now, a couple of days maybe, is to break down this actual week's events. I should be doing it on time this time. It's just between trying to get people involved and just fighting with myself over doing a Raw review at all. All of that just made it very, very difficult. This time, I'm not going to make any excuses. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do a breakdown of this week's events, try to make it a little quicker than usual because I also want to do a rundown of the Hot Balls pay-per-view card and give my thoughts on what I think is going to happen, my picks for who's going to win, and what it could lead to potentially afterwards, especially heading into SummerSlam. And of course, which will all lead into Sunday night or Monday, giving my review and my breakdown of that pay-per-view. I'm also expecting to do a G1 Climax review with Tim in the not too distant future, where we will also break down things like, I'm going to get maybe his pick for the top 5 worst entrance themes. I also want to discuss top 5 moves that really just don't get used anymore. You see them maybe every now and then, but you just don't really see them. And that could be because they're forbidden. It could be because they're just way too goddamn dangerous. Or it could just be for who knows why. I also want to do a top 5 tag teams. In future, we're going to get into, he brought up, my top lariats. I want to do that. And I want to do a top 5 finishers. No, I'm not going to do all of these with him. I want to save some of these for other people so that we can discuss it. And Matt, I'm telling you, man, we're going to do this thing, and it's going to be probably just after SummerSlam, because I know you're a fan of wrestling anyways. You may not be a fan of the show. You may just be tolerating it in the hopes that you'll get on it, which, that's fine. A listen's a listen, as long as you listen to it and you don't hate every minute of it. Hate every minute of it. So, shout out to Matt. Shout out to Bacon, because he's going to be on this thing. Shout out to Scott, because he's going to be on this fucking thing. Shout out to Dan, because I'm getting you on this goddamn podcast, dude. It's gonna fucking happen. It's gonna... Don't make the American dream Dusty Rose wait, because I'll come to your house and I'll tell you a thing or two about hard times, baby. We get into that bull rope match, and I don't think you want none of this. So, that's all I have for right now. It's been mediocre to fun, and I look forward to doing it again. And thank you all for listening and supporting. And thank you all for following me to YouTube. I only got off of SoundCloud because I didn't want to have to pay for more minutes and have to delete past shows. With YouTube, I can keep them all up there. I know YouTube might not be that convenient. It's going to bleed your battery out if you listen to it while it's playing in the background. And I know that probably sucks for some of you, but hopefully you find a way to get over it, because it would just make me so happy. Because I love the idea of having fans. I love the fact of having... I love wrestling and wrestling fans, despite the fact that this product can be and is pretty more often than not awful. So I look forward to the next coming week or so, couple of weeks of shows. I'm looking forward to SummerSlam because it's the second biggest show of the year, and it should be good. Until next week, please like and subscribe on YouTube. Maybe find me on SoundCloud. And I hope that you will all join me again next time. Muta Scale Radio. This is Mr. NSFW. Don't bother gigging, bitches. Because we got deep. Close the mouth.